Hi, Lucy. How you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Welcome everyone to Why It's Important. Lucy is going to talk to us about authenticity in leadership. Lucy is a leadership coach. She's in Brisbane, Australia, in the nice warm weather.
Very hot at the moment. Yeah, and humid.
Hot and humid. Well, here in the United States, we are free. I didn't actually wear my scarf, but I had a scarf on all day in my office because my office is cold. So we're coming to Australia to hang out. We're gonna put up tents in your yard and hang out because it's warm
Right.
there.
Yeah, if you can get here, Australia's pretty strict at the moment. We can't get out or in. We're living a good life in Australia, but we're stuck here.
Yeah. So why don't you just brief us a little bit about yourself, so people can understand, where you are, who you are, rather, and what you do, and all that stuff.
Okay, so as you said, I'm a leadership coach. I work from an ontological approach. So that means I coach from the way people see the world and how we are different observers of the world and what reality really is. So the study of reality, that's ontology. And from my perspective is, okay, we all have a different interpretation of what we see, how we see the world, and that has to do with our stories, our values, our culture, and when you work with someone at that level, you can create like a ripple effect of transformation around the results that they're achieving in life, because it's not about, okay, what do you need to do, it's who do you need to be to achieve whatever you want in terms of your career, your leadership, your life in general, really. So I go to that deeper level around how do you see the world, what are the things that you make of, yeah, the things around you, the interpretations that you make of the world around you, and given that, what possibilities are available for you and which ones aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So I work with a profile that's called the Being Profile, that gives you a real insight. It's a profiling tool, so it's based in ontology. It's a questionnaire of like 240 questions, and it gives you an understanding of how you are being and how do you relate to different aspects of yourself. For example, vulnerability, fear, anxiety, authenticity, responsibility, and a whole lot of stuff. And it allows you to then, given what comes up for you, start making transformational changes in your life. And for me, that's my starting point, and then I coach around those different ways of being.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hi, Angela. We've got Angela here.
Well, hello, Angela. She's saying, "Hey, Australia." There you go. Walking and listening. She's out doing her exercise for the evening at like midnight, I think. Crazy girl.
There you go.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So let's just in general, leadership, right? Normally, when I think about leadership, just right off the top of my head, I'm thinking about people that are in positions of authority, people that are leading teams, people that are heads of departments, people that are directors of, like that. And now, is that the general idea of leadership, or not really? I mean,
well, I often challenge that idea that we are all leaders in any position, whatever your age. You're always leading first your own life and then leading others, because you have influence on how people choose to be around you and connect with you, and then choose to do things because of your leadership. That can be in any area of life. And of course, big part of my focus is working with those more positional leaders that have a positional leadership in an organization. It can be that they're leading a team, or they might have a big influence in their organization. So that's their leadership. How do they influence others? How do they bring them along? And how do people choose to be around them and be led by them? So that's more of a positional leadership.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And I also would like to say from my experience that when I got into a leadership role myself, not just the first time, but every time that I have been in a leadership role, there has been an expectation. When I first got into the first leadership role, I didn't really realize that there was an expectation that I was to be an example and to actually have to show people the way, so to speak, right? Or the way forward, keep the vision alive, and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, I realized, oh, that's right. So now I have an elevated responsibility where I have to add that component of leadership. And especially in that first time that I was in a leadership role, I was like, I don't know what that means.
You do that, and I guess that's what commonly is spoken about as one of the big mistakes that companies make, that they put people that are very good at what they do in leadership roles and expect them to be good leaders. And it's a totally different game, because you require different skills. But then there's people that will have grown their leadership no matter where in their career, and that has to do with their own ability to influence, to communicate, to think strategically, and have that vision and bring other people along with them. And the thing that I work with is, okay, those are maybe the things that you need to do, but who do you need to be to sit on those leadership positions, to be in them, and create that around you? So it's, you need to be courageous, you need to be authentic, you need to be responsible.
I remember that word from last week.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a very big one.
It's a huge one, yeah. So, wow. Well, okay. So last week was responsibility.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to go and watch that, I mean, I could probably add that link down below here so people can go watch that.
Right.
But this week is about authenticity, and that's a really interesting word too. And so the topic is about why it's important, or the discussion is about why authenticity is important in leadership. So from your, I mean, generally, why for a leader is authenticity something that they should strive toward?
Let me introduce what authenticity is on the being profile, and then we'll connect with why it's important, because it'll be on there. So
Okay.
Authenticity is being and acting consistent with who you say you are for others and who you say you are for yourself. True authenticity is when your actions are consistently congruent with your words. When you have a high score, that means that you have a good health relationship with authenticity. It indicates that you mostly experience yourself as being true to yourself, and others will consider you as reliable and trustworthy as your actions are consistent with what you say. And when you have a low score, so not a healthy relationship with authenticity, it indicates that you may often experience yourself as a fake or fraud and may question your abilities. Others might consider that you are unreliable and often act inconsistently with who you say you are. So so when I read that, for me, the first thing that pops up is it's a key element so people trust you, that you create trust, and that people don't question your abilities, that they don't experience you as a fraud, that they think, okay, when you're in that leadership position and you say something and you set the vision, people trust you. People say, okay, he's reliable, I can trust what he says.
Hmm.
And if you don't have that when you're trying to lead a team, everything will be questioned. People won't be inspired by you. And so much more that's in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you mind if I take 30 seconds and read some of the synonyms that I found for the word authenticity?
Go ahead.
So, accurate, authoritative, credible, legitimate, pure, reliable, true, trustworthy. So, yeah, I mean, these are things that, one of the things that I remember when I used to teach my leadership course, and I think I mentioned this briefly, is that the that I didn't realize how much people were actually watching me. Every word, every move. It was my desk clean. I mean, things like this, you know.
Yeah.
And if I even tried to point out one thing, give feedback to anybody about anything, they would be like, well, you're not doing that either. So it's tough because being authentic in leadership is a huge part of that. And just exactly like you said, it's you got to be real.
You've got to be real, and that's the paradox that we were talking about. It's the more you pretend to be authentic, the more inauthentic you are. So you need to be authentic about your inauthenticities. So when you go and you have a messy desk, if you declare that this is something that I struggle with, for example, I'm messy and it is not something that comes in easily for me. That is expressing something that is one of your, not, I don't want to say weaknesses, but something that doesn't come easy to you. And you're clear about those things, then that's authenticity. If you pretend that everything is perfect, in order, and that you've got it all sorted, that's, for me, is the most inauthentic. You can smell it a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with self-doubt, or when you don't know the answer, when you're doubting yourself, being authentic about that will also create that trust.
Mm-hmm. Can we use the word alignment with authenticity, like to be in alignment with my words and actions and behavior and instructions, because that's part of it too. As a leader, if I have a team, for example, and I'm giving instructions, if I am out of alignment with those things, then I'm also being inauthentic. So I'm asking people to do things that I'm not willing to do.
And that's why it goes so hand in hand with responsibility and ownership. Because to be seen as authentic, you also need to own up to what you say that you're going to do, what you say that what you ask of others, and own your words and be in alignment or congruent with what you say.
Mm-hmm. I had a mentor one time that used to say, never give anybody any reason to have bad thoughts about you. So always make sure my desk was clean, that my clothes were pressed. I mean, that I had my homework done. When I came to a meeting, I was prepared, and on and on and on. And so that I didn't have to pretend to put on the facade that I had my act totally together. And when I had something that wasn't together, I could just easily say, listen, guys, my apology, I don't have this handled.
Yeah.
That's the way that I would, and people were very forgiving when like 98% of my leadership was authentic. People were like, oh, no worries. Now, if I was like the other way around, like 50%, people would be like, yeah, you're such a schmuck. We're not going to listen to you.
But you've just touched on a really important point. Like, how do you know what authenticity is for you? When do you know that you're being authentic? And for me, that is one of the greatest challenges, and why I do what I do. It's creating the awareness to know when you're authentic, and to know when you're trying to fake it for someone else, and how does that feel. How does it feel in your body? What are the words that you use when you're being inauthentic, or you're faking it for someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Creating that awareness so that you can catch yourself when you're trying to pretend to be something that you're not. It happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to someone, I was talking about what I do and what I could do for them as a company, and they wanted something different from me. And at one point, I was trying to be what they wanted me to be for them. And I felt really uncomfortable. I was getting flustered, and I thought, hey, this is not aligned with what I came into this conversation to be, and to say that I could be for them. And I shifted it. And at some point I said, I think what you want is all of this. And what I'm saying I can do for all of that is this bit. This is who I am. This is where my strengths are. And that shifted the conversation, for me at least. I could be at peace and say, all right, I've said really what I think
Mm-hmm.
is possible,
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to pretend or fake it and be all that they wanted me to be, because that's what they needed. But to have the awareness to catch yourself in the moment, I think that's the that's the art of it. That's the mastery.
Okay, so in the workshop that we're going to do after the first of the year now, since we've settled on that, I know we've talked about that. I've been doing these, I do these Dare to Share on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I've been looking at the calendar and sharing. Well, last Monday we had Lucy on talking about responsibility. She's coming back today at 5 to talk about authenticity, and we're hoping maybe possibly that we're going to do a workshop next week. So the answer is we're not doing it next week.
Yeah.
We don't have, it's not going to happen.
Christmas time, and I'm being authentic around how crazy the end of the year has become.
Exactly.
And I want to deliver something that will be valuable to all of you. So, it's a bit of self-care and also delivering something good for you guys.
Yeah, and your sanity at the same time. But my question really is, like, so you talked about that line, right? So that's an individual thing. That's up for me to observe, decide, whatever. And so is that something that you're gonna address in the workshop? Like,
yeah, so
I practice that.
The kind of work I do, and when I in workshops, it would be around giving yourself time to discover this. So where are you faking it? Where are you being authentic? How do you notice when you're being authentic? And also connecting it with the responsibility conversation. So what do you need to do to own and be responsible around your own inauthenticities? So connecting those two and having what do you call it? A self-discovery workshop that you will get to reflect and notice some things about yourself, and then create some actions to go forward and try some things out.
Okay. And so this is going to be a workshop that's like an hour to an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
We'll set on the 60 or 90 minutes. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Let me ask you one more thing about, you were just talking about, I can't remember, gosh, but I was thinking about this thing about assertiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned and have practiced is being an assertive communicator. And I learned a long time ago when I was sitting there as a student listening, the instructor said, as an assertive communicator says what they mean. and asks, they say and ask questions based on what they need, what they want. They're not like beating around the bush, It's real clear communication. And I think that that's another bit of what authenticity is about. If I'm beating around the bush, it's kind of like I'm not being forthright.
Yeah. So yeah, we could touch on that also on the workshop, because how are you straight, firm, and effective on what you need to say, what you want to say, and you don't go into, I'm just going to do the nice things and say what they want to hear and not hurt their feelings or whatever it is, but that's inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
And the same when you're going to the aggressive or passive aggressive, there's a lot of inauthenticity there. But the only thing I'd like to, before we leave, is what's really important is that there's no good or bad. It's not that you're right or you're wrong. When you're being inauthentic, it's not a good bad conversation, this, because it's a discovery conversation around, we will all do it in different aspects of our lives in different times, but the mastery comes of catching ourselves and picking ourselves up when it happens. Because yeah, it happens all the time. We do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. What was that bit that you talked about catching yourself, cleaning it up, and then there was another.
Yeah. Own
That,
it, clean it up, move on.
there you go.
That will take you from the excuses, the justifications, or whatever is going on for you, and bring you up above the line where you can take responsibility, ownership, and accountability. So that's the art.
You have to build that into the workshop for sure. That's a huge insight, and it's so simple and easy. Yes. Own it, clean it up, move on.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Love it. Okay, what else you want to talk about?
No, I think this, maybe I could just read you this quote that for me is really sort of, it was a slap on the face in terms of authenticity. And just leave you with that one cannot pretend to be authentic. That by definition is inauthentic. Being authentic is being willing to discover, confront, and tell the truth about your inauthenticities, where you are not being genuine, real, or authentic. Specifically, when in your life are you not being or acting consistently with who you hold yourself out to be for others, and where are you not being or acting consistent with who you hold yourself to be for yourself? The actionable pathway to authenticity is to be authentic about your inauthenticities. That's the pathway. And
it's kind of like a tongue twister.
Yeah, exactly.
But it makes sense. If you're faking being authentic, that's inauthentic. Absolutely.
Inauthentic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I can honestly say that I have done this a lot in my life, mostly in the past, because I'm an old man now, so I don't need to be put on a facade. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But there were times where I was pretending to be something and someone that I wasn't, and that was certainly being inauthentic, and I didn't see it at the time until I would have people point out to me, Dominic, that was very weird, and I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Well, and that's the thing, people will smell it a mile away. So if you're a leader and you're leading a team, the cost of being inauthentic or not knowing what authentic looks for you, it can be big. There can be a big cost there. So it's an important thing to develop as a leader.
Okay, so let's do the 60-second why it's important. So why it's important to work on or to integrate authenticity into a leadership style. Is that the way to word it? Leadership style, because
it creates trust. It gives you peace of mind. You're aligned with who you say you are for yourself, and you can show that. It people will think that you can deliver for them. They will trust that you can deliver what you say you're going to do, you'll do. What else?
They'll perform.
So many.
People will perform at a higher level. They will do extra. And it's not like they do it to be the, that's not what it is. When somebody is like I've had, leaders, managers where I never had a problem. I would be happy to go an extra mile for them, or for the team.
And in that is, if you're authentic, about your inauthenticities, you'll invite your team also to be authentic about their inauthenticities. They'll be more willing to share with you where they might be struggling, where something is not working for them. And it's so connected also to the vulnerability conversation. If you can show up and say, this is something I said I was going to do, now I haven't done it, I'm sorry, clean it up, and then move on. Own it, clean it up, move on. Then it will also show your team that they can do that with you. And that's very powerful.
Yeah, very good.
If everyone thinks they need to pretend, then you're not going to know what's going on in your team.
So it begins with me.
It begins with you, and it creates a ripple effect in your team of if I can own up, then other people can own up also.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Bravo.
Thank you. I love these conversations with you.
Thank you. I do too. They're very powerful and inspiring. So we'll talk, and then we'll come up with a date. We'll make the announcement. We'll create an event, and then we can send out invitations like that, and we'll do it. We're not even sure where we're going to do it yet, but it doesn't really matter. So, all righty. Lucy, thank you so much for telling us how warm it is there in Brisbane. I really appreciate that.
Sorry.
You said you were hot, and it was humid. Oh my gosh. I'm like, really? Thank you.
And Angela, just thank you for all your comments. Loved having you on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Angela. All right. So from all of us here in the Self-Achievement Network, you guys stay inspired and remember to have fun. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye for now. Thank you, Lucy.
Bye.